Hello YouTube, Dave here again. So one of the questions that I've had quite a few times actually over the course of my 3 years with this channel revolves around my use of miniatures. Specifically, how do I, where do you find them or how can people get them? So, for example, a lot of my earlier videos I would have displays set up with like battle maps and miniatures and stuff like that. And a lot of them would be, miniatures such as, this one here, although I don't think I actually used him in any of my videos, but you're probably familiar with my large, the giant purple beholder, which is again one of my favorite miniatures, as well as other things such as like the large, the large dragons and stuff like that. So I've had a lot of people ask where they can find some of these miniatures, and the unfortunate thing is that for a lot of the ones that I have or that I show in my videos, there's no real easy way to get them. Most of them came from the Dungeons & Dragons miniatures line that ran during the time of 3.5 Dungeons & Dragons. So from 2003 until about 2008, they were releasing, for a miniatures game basically, and you would buy a booster box with 8 random miniatures in it. Then there were, I think it was 1 rare, 3 uncommons, and 4 commons, if I recall correctly. So they retailed at the time, the first few sets were $15 per booster, which was awesome. They did, every 4 sets they'd release one that had like huge miniatures in it. In a box, about this size, and those ones retailed for about $30. And after the first one of those was released, the price didn't go back down to 15, instead it went back down to 20. So anyway, so that's where I got most of my miniatures. I spent hundreds of dollars on these plastic miniatures trying to basically get them for not only the role-playing game, but we were actually playing the miniatures game themselves. So as far as a lot of the ones that I show in my videos, they're not going to be very easy to come by. You can find on eBay or other sales sites, you may find people selling lots of them, which is actually probably one of the better ways to get them if you're going to try to find the older ones that I have, because you tend to have people group them together by themes. Instead of them being totally random, you can get, like, if you're looking for a bunch of orcs, then you can probably find a listing of, assorted orc miniatures or orc warband or things like that, so you can find them. But these older miniatures that I have tend to be kind of on the expensive side to go back and get nowadays. So there are other options and there are other alternatives out there. One of the alternatives that I actually want to mention, when I can find it here, just give me a moment. So, like I said, there are several alternatives. There are miniatures, of course, that you can definitely get, and I'll discuss some of those in a moment. However, another great alternative to getting miniatures would be to find the Pathfinder Pawns box sets. And basically what these are they're just sheets of just punch-out, stand-up, two-dimensional tokens that kind of look like, you can see them on the back there. This one is for NPCs, but they have ones based off of their monster codexes and things like that. And those are, again, those are actually really well worth it if you can find them. They're decent quality. They tend to be pretty cheap and give you a lot of stuff to work with. However, if you're looking for actual plastic miniatures, there are, again, some alternatives. So, for example, there is the Dungeons & Dragons Icons of the Realm series, which comes in, booster boxes like this, or booster packs, I guess you can call it, whatever you want to call it, such as this. And these tend to run around $20 Canadian, or a little bit more. I'm not quite sure what they sell for US, because they don't seem to have a US price on them. The downside to these is that you typically only get 4 miniatures, which is a lot more expensive per miniature than the old sets used to be that I got back in the day. I don't honestly really recommend these too much. Now, Pathfinder has a similar product as well that's out there, so you don't have to stick to just the Dungeons & Dragons one. There are Pathfinder ones as well, but again, for 4 miniatures, paying what they tend to cost, like where I live, it's just not worth it. This is the only one of these I've actually ever bought, and I've had no compulsion to go back and buy any more, just because it really feels like a major waste. So, what I would recommend is, if you can find them, there's a line of non-randomized miniatures. Now, you have to paint them yourself or just deal with them the way that they are. However, these are Nolzor's Marvelous Miniatures that I recommend. Now, these are from WizKids and NECA, it looks like. And what's really cool about these is you tend to get 2 miniatures per pack, depending on what they are. Now, some of the monsters are larger and you only get 1, but the prices are actually really good. So these are 2 miniatures here. They're 2 human wizards. They come pre-primed, so all you have to do is just go ahead and start painting them right away. So they're already primed and ready to go. They have stands there that you can kind of glue them to, as well as some other pieces that may or may not be included with different ones. Like with the wizards, they have these clear plastic things that you can put on the ends of their staffs, basically. And on the back, it just shows examples of the painted miniatures, which is really cool. I only have 2 of them so far. I have the human wizard, which I just thought, like, that is just a really cool looking human wizard. You know, I love the detail on them. I love the sculpts on them. Just looks really cool. And I got the Elven Ranger, which I actually just picked up. But this thing is really cool. Now they paint them up like Dritz on there. You don't have to do that. I love the Dritz character. I love the novels. I'm not ashamed to say that. So for me, that's totally cool. And I like the fact that they actually have them painted up like Dritz. But these things are much more cost effective. So these usually here in Canada, now again I don't know the US price because there's no prices printed on the back here, but in Canada I've paid $6 per each of these, which is really good actually. It basically comes down to $3 per miniature, and that's a good price. I consider that to be really decent. So for example, instead of buying one of these, which has 4 randomized miniatures for over $20, again Canadian, you can go out and actually buy miniatures knowing what they are, getting a few of them, right, having some options to work with, and spending a fraction of the money. I mean, you know, these 4 miniatures here were $12 versus, you know, over 20 some odd dollars for 4 randomized ones. Now they do have, again, a lot of monsters. I've seen Displacer Beasts, I've seen Orcs, Goblins. I've seen quite a few different products in this line. I just haven't had a chance to really buy too many of them. Now I still have mine sealed because I don't own any paint, and I'm going to be honest, I actually kind of like the packaging, so odds are I'm probably going to leave them the way that they are unless I can get some paints and try to get back into that. But if you're looking for miniatures, if you have a game shop that has these in stock, these are what I recommend. I recommend these way more than buying the randomized miniatures, or again, another great alternative is to see if you can find Pathfinder pawns, because for most of the creatures out there, most of the NPCs that are going to be out there, the Pathfinder one's probably going to have you covered. So those are my recommendations. Again, there are also eBay lots if you want to go back and try to find some of the older miniatures that I own, like the ones kind of back here. But keep in mind that those are going to be probably a bit more on the expensive side now, and you're also going to deal with like shipping and all that stuff. So again, my recommendation, if you're looking for specific miniatures, get these ones here. Now there is a Pathfinder line for these as well. I don't know if it's under Nolzor's Marvelous Miniatures. I think that's copyrighted for Dungeons & Dragons. But WizKids and NECA do have a line of Pathfinder ones as well for these. So you can find those, you can find the D&D ones, or you can get the Pathfinder Pawns box. Those are my recommendations. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.